Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another webinar for this particular series. We always have this on a Thursday. So for this month, we have something I think that a lot of you will be very interested to talk about and to listen into. So welcome to all of our clients and our partners. Thank you for joining us here today, as always. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, also a warm welcome to all of you. So, good afternoon, everyone. In behalf of everybody in our team, we hope that you are well and most importantly, staying safe during these particular very challenging times. There is a lot for us to talk about today. So, before we begin, allow me to just very briefly introduce ourselves to you, especially if you are joining us for the first time. So, I am Sarah Ramos. I am part of Organic Intelligence. Organic Intelligence is an insights to solutions house. We are a marketing and communications think tank. What we do is we really provide strategic communication solutions, and we do this by harnessing local community and best in global resources so that we are able to connect your organization with your intended audiences and stakeholders, whether they are your external customers or your internal employees. So how do we do this? We do this by leveraging on our competencies, and there are four. Okay, so first is our business and our competency in marketing communication, where the focus is really in building up your brand. So we do brand and people marketing, design thinking, communications planning, data design, visualization, and branding. So all of this is meant to strengthen your brand, to solidify your position, and to get clarity in terms of where you are in the market and to reach your objectives as well. So we also have competencies in market intelligence. So these are all your traditional and non-traditional research, both qualitative and quantitative. Now that we have shifted to the new normal, we have also shifted the way we do research so that we can do most of it online. So and if you want, also on ground and also channel specific. So we can do digital and financial audits as well as ethnographies and experiential kinds of research. Next, in our competencies, is our competency in development communications. So here it is really all about building capacity for individuals and communities. And to do that, we do landscape scanning, we do health consumer insights, capacity building, and really zeroing in on behavior change and strategic communications. Finally, is our group, which is people development, where I belong. So people development, we work with organizations and working with them through organizational development, through trainings and workshops, and through coaching. So these particular buckets, we have several areas where we work in these particular departments. For organizational development, what we really do is we strengthen the culture of an organization, and we're able to pinpoint if there are certain gaps in the culture that they want to highlight, as well as being able to see if there are certain things in the process that we need to fine tune, and tying that all of that to the organization's strategic goals, and objectives. In terms of trainings and workshops, these are all of your traditional trainings and workshops that cover communication, leadership, customer service, team building, sales and negotiation, as well as business etiquette and critical thinking skills. So the next bucket is where we do coaching. So we do individual coaching, we do executive one-on-one coaching. We also do team-based coaching. So if there's a group of people that you want us to work with, that's also possible. One-on-one coaching are for those individuals that you have handpicked in an organization that you feel can benefit from a more targeted and personal kind of coaching. We can do that. We also do team coaching, and especially working with sports teams as well. So a lot of performance-based coaching also. So Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is the summary of everything I talked about. So from organizational development to trainings and workshop and coaching. Next. Okay, so these are some of the clients that we have worked with in organic intelligence. So we have worked with UN agencies. Okay, we continuously work with these ones. We have worked also with companies in finances, investment, in developmental organizations, health and wellness, media and telco, products and services, food, as well as property and realty as well. Okay, so next slide. We also work with a group of agencies in our community where we translate the ideas that organic intelligence has for your brand, and we look for different ways to execute that, whether through events and experiential marketing, public relations, multimedia content and production. We can also do digital marketing and communications, as well as community activation and on-ground communication. So it's very much an integrated group of our organizations working together, and the goal is really to drive your goals and realize your objectives and make them come to life. Okay. One partnership that we have, the newest one, is with Pocket Mentor, which I will be talking about some more here. We also have strategic partnerships for research, especially with SMR and Morris. We are members and part of the network for DOST. Okay. Also, a strategic partnership with the Ateneo Business Research Center, and we are a member of PhilJeps as well. So, lastly, we have a partnership with Pocket Mentor in organic intelligence, and together with Francis Kong, okay, what we do is we have a digital learning platform that really aims to bring learning closer to the Filipinos so that it helps them lead more purposeful and meaningful lives. Okay, so very interesting. A lot of the work has really shifted to making sure that people have access to information and to learning no matter where they are. And that's where Pocket Mentor is really positioned. So something for you guys also to check out. Okay, next. Okay, so without any more delay, and having said that about our organization, today what we're going to be doing is talking about working and parenting in the now normal. Um, Seems to be that we are still here in this situation, and this situation has created its own sets of challenges at work and at home. But today, what we'll be looking at is when these two worlds that used to be right separate and distinct have come together, okay, in one space, and the demands seem to have amplified. Okay, there are a lot more things that are being asked of us, whether it's in the workplace and also at home, and those have created new sources of stress as well as new challenges that we hope to talk about today in this session. So if you have any questions or if you have any comments, do type that up in the comments box of wherever it is that you're watching us from, whether on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll make sure that the people in our panel today will get to your questions. So, without any more delay, okay, I would like to introduce to you the one who will be taking you through this particular topic. Okay, so he is also part of Organic Intelligence. So, Robie Zialcita is part of OI in people development. He has had a career that's very varied, starting from the academe, okay, where he was a prefect of discipline for a boys' school, okay, here in Manila, and then shifting later on to teaching physics, and then still staying in the academe. After that, he had a stint, okay, quite a long stint also, working with IBM, where he was championing leadership, okay, leadership programs. He is certified in the 7 habits of highly effective people, as well as 6 thinking hats. On a different note, he is also certified as a family and premarital counselor from the Center of Family Ministries, or CEFAM. Okay, so he brings that kind of experience, and he's a great resource for us to work with and to learn from today, because aside from working in the corporate world, he is also very much a dedicated father of 3 children, 2 daughters, and 1 son. Okay, so, and I know that Robbie has always been very dedicated to really, to parenting and to doing that well. Okay, so I'm sure that is something we can all learn from today. So, without any more delays, Robbie, the show is yours. Welcome to today's session.
thank you so much, Sarah, for the introduction and
Always
welcome
welcome.
to all. Yes. And welcome to all our viewers, to all of you who have been following us religiously. Thank you so much for being here. And for those of you also who have just tuned in, welcome. And we hope that today will be something that you can go home to and probably apply to your own lives and see how this can also apply. Maybe if you're not even a parent, how does it apply to your own day to day? Now that we are approaching what we call the hybrid kind of work environment, wherein you sometimes would probably go offline, right? You're offline right now working from home, or you are, offline working in the office and online where you are right now working from home. So, how do we hurdle all of that? And we know that there are challenges, and we like to use the word now normal because we're approaching already more than a year and a half in this situation, and with the Delta variant it now brings a new concern, right? A new concern for us to have go back to the stricter ways of implementing how we go about our day to day. And many have already seen that this scenario will persist until such time that herd immunity has happened, and we are all confident that the vaccines out there will really help us. So how do we really navigate, right? How do we navigate through this hybrid situation that we are going to face in the near future? And right now, how do we also navigate the now normal that more and more people are really working from home with the blended environment that we have, right? And for parents, there is that added challenge of managing your family as well, not just your work but your family, right? So let's dive into that, and let's see how we can work around so many things. Today I will be joined also by another successful parent, and I will introduce her later on. Okay, you know that we love to do that. We bring in other experts so that we don't have just a single source of opinions or ideas. So we brought in another person who is a good friend, and we are going to have a chat later on with her, and I will introduce her to you later. All right. So today, there's so many challenges that we have. Everything is really a blended environment, as you can see from the photos here. People are trying to work, and they get interrupted. You've seen that at the bottom, that bottom left photo that happened actually. His daughter suddenly came in. The wife was also there. There was even an anchorman trying, well, not an anchorman, a weatherman who was trying to deliver the weather report, and his dog walked in, okay, to listen to him. So that those are things that happen, right? Those are things that happen. And if that hasn't happened to you in the last few year and a half that we've been on lockdown, wow, good. That's a feat. All right, something always happens during this time of this blended environment that we have right now for online stuff. So if this is your situation and you see it, you're in the right place, because we got some tips for you just in case you want to know what to do in the now normal and in the future, because this is really going to persist for quite some time. So, pre-pandemic, what would we do? We would have a very strong office-based culture. We'd go to the office, everything left behind. We're professional. We do our best to work hard, and after that we go home. That's what it was pre-pandemic. The option of work from home was only a privilege. Yes, before people were just thinking about it, or people were saying, I want to work for that multinational because they have a work from home option. And there were only a few corporations that were offering work from home. And it was a privilege. When you were hired, you weren't always given the privilege to work from home until you've had some kind of tenure and some kind of success within the corporation. So, given that, pre-pandemic, it was only just a privilege, and for many it was just a thought. Oh yeah, that would be nice, not necessarily something that they would consider. But currently what happened, at least 72% of companies have adopted the work from home scheme. 72%, that's a lot. Okay, that's a lot. And even for corporations that were very brick and mortar, you now find some of their products and services also online. So you can just imagine what this pandemic has done, or this virus and the resulting pandemic has done, to disrupt the way that we do things. And more people are doing their best to shift. So it's no longer a privilege, but an imperative. It's something that we need. Everybody needs that. And moving forward, actually, more and more corporations see that, okay pala eh, we can actually do it. We can actually exist and thrive in this time of the pandemic, or even after, with the work from home setup. And so many actually are considering the fact that they can now have this hybrid kind of working environment. So employees now, though, in the current situation, seem to be working harder, right? I mean, nowadays people are, the mentality is, I don't know if you've actually heard someone say this to you, but the mentality is, well, I'm working from home, so I can read that email while I'm eating my dinner, or while I'm, at my bedside, or watching TV or not watching TV. We do work in between our times because we are at home. And since we're at home, many times we think that that's okay. And so we end up working even on the weekends because we can put in the chores that we need to do on the weekends, or we think we can do that. And there's just now, everything now is just blended. Remember that in the pre-pandemic, time, we actually didn't do that. We separated our work from our home. When we got home, we just focused on home. And when we're at work, we would focus on work. But now, because work and home have come together, you know, what are we doing, right? So employees now are feeling that pinch. Not just employees, it's also students, teachers, people from the academia are also feeling that pinch, that somehow we are working harder. We are working harder now in this now normal and this work from home situation. So the question is, are you working from home or are you sleeping in the office? Because it's blended, right? Sleeping in the office. So what's happening now? And there are consequences to everything. Aside from that, there are no physical boundaries in the current situation between work, family, and personal life. And this is what I mean. That somehow, because we are at home, we ourselves don't put any boundaries. We don't work 9 to 5 anymore. There is no 9 to 5. There's just the work that comes, the work that we churn out, and the work and the family life that we have in between the work that we're trying to do at home, right? And that's what's happening. That's what is the current situation, and this is what we've been able to adapt to. And like I said, there are consequences also to this kind of blended or hybrid way of doing work. What are some of these consequences, especially for the work from home parents? Okay, what's happening right now? So parents now have become the teacher, right? They've become the teacher because of the modules that are sent at home. I'm sure that many of you are, there's some parents who like hover over, okay, is my son or daughter, are they reading the modules? Are they watching the videos that the teacher send? What's happening? Can I see your grades? Can I see what's happening? Now more than ever, they're getting more involved. And sometimes they also become the teachers when the students don't understand what's happening. I'm kind of lucky because my children are now in college, so I can't help them. Okay, so I can only support them and give them moral support. Okay, but if they were in high school, that would be a different scenario altogether. The teacher now, not aside from being the teacher, they've become the playmate as well, right? Playtime, teacher, they're everything, right? They're also the coach. Everything that happens now at home, parents with younger children or even a little bit older in the teens and the high school stage, they're all this. They become the teacher, the playmate, and the coach. So can you imagine? Parents have to navigate that together with family life, together with their own work life. And everything is happening in the four corners of their home. Imagine that. Everything is happening in just one space in their homes. Whereas before, it would happen in different places. Kids were at school, you're at work, all come home, family life at home. So those were the places that it would happen before. So this now causes some stress. Like I said, there is some kind of consequence that happens when you now blend everything together. And when you put everything together, it's like putting together all the ice cream flavors that you can imagine. Although that does sound pretty good to try, but some people might not like some of those ice cream flavors, right? Or when you try to blend in dessert with main meal or viands, put them all together, it causes some kind of stress somewhere, right? So what are these sources of stress? Where does it come from? We all heard about Zoom fatigue, right? And we are all now here in this session. But if you have them every day for like more than 2 hours just in a session, it's going to make you tired. It's really more tiring. And I have to tell you that me personally, as a trainer, it's really tiring. It can be tiring because before I could feel and I could sense people's reactions, but now I'm staring at the camera lens and there's no reaction whatsoever from that camera. So all the energy is just going out and I don't feel anything coming back, right? So it can be tiring, especially for people who are doing presentations, are in meetings, especially if your camera is on. So there is such a thing as Zoom fatigue, and that can be a source of stress as well. And we drag our feet sometimes just to go to the next online meeting, whether it's Zoom or whether it's or Google Meet or any other platform that you use in your office. What else? The blended environment can also be stressful because now we don't know how much time do I spend with my work and then with my family, or I'm at work and then all of a sudden family comes in, or something else comes in, or before something breaks down in the house, you're in the office, you don't know what to do, you call someone else. But now that you're at home, you have to take care of it, right? You have to take care of it. So what do you do? The blended environment also causes some stress. There's a lot of stress. And when you're cooped up also in the same house, parang yung Pinoy Big Brother, right? When you're all together in the same house 24/7, you get to learn a lot about each other. And sometimes, you have to have a little space for yourself every now and then. So the blended environment can be a source of stress for a lot of people. And this is what's happening with this current state. Physical disconnection with friends and colleagues, yeah, that too. As human beings, we really crave human connections, and not just connecting via online this way, but physical connections, to be actually in front of people, talking to them and speaking with them and interacting with them, hearing them laugh, seeing them smile. These are things that we enjoy. We enjoy even the nuances when we hear people's tone, when they speak and it changes and their body language changes. All of these things, we feel disconnected from them now. And we've been feeling disconnected, and that's why we try to find meaning in our social interactions when we go online with family, with friends, yung mga inuman na yan, right? Or even watching your relatives cook a meal that you want to learn, things like that. Those are, we long for that. We want to have connection, and not just connection, but meaningful connections. And somehow this disruption has taken that away from us and even from our co-workers and colleagues at work. Aside from that, for the kids, online distance learning is another thing that they had to navigate. It's something new. They've never experienced this before. I mean, to be honest, the ones who had an advantage on online distance learning were the people who were homeschooled because they're used to studying at home. They're used to that environment. So now that all students are at home, many of them struggle. In the beginning, they struggled. And even now, sometimes there's a struggle. There still is that struggle of, when do I actually start to study? When do I stop? Actually, now it's really when do I stop? Because before it was easy. When they were in school, they get home, they knew when to stop because they had already gone through a lot of their notes in school or at their tutoring centers, right? But now that everything is so blended, things have actually changed and things are now different. And so online distance learning for children can be very stressful, and it can also be very, very stressful for the parents. Okay, for the parents who are watching over their children. And I say this because sometimes as a parent, you feel helpless that this is what's happening. My kids are in college. Well, two of them. My eldest just graduated college, but they receive notifications from their teachers even after dinner. 9, 10 in the evening, which before was unheard of. So even the teachers are working longer hours, the students are working longer hours, they're seeing all of this, and it's causing that kind of stress, online distance learning. So, according to this study, or this journal or article, so according to the workforce of the future, right, and this is a global survey that was done, 9 in 10 workers prefer greater autonomy with the hybrid work setup. Okay, so a mix of remote and office-based working. And for some people, that's what they're doing already. It just hasn't been formalized. You go to the office like once or twice a week, but the rest of the week you're at home. You're doing your meetings there, or you go to the office and only spend the half day there, and then for the rest of the afternoon you're at home. So these are things that are happening in this now normal that we are experiencing. And eventually, everyone will start gravitating towards this hybrid work setup. And it's something that we're seeing more and more of. And we feel, and I strongly feel, because it's starting to work, that even after this pandemic is over, more and more companies are going to go for the hybrid work setup. Why? Because it works. Why? Because it's more cost effective for them. Instead of having real estate for where all their workers are there, the workers can be in the comfort of their homes. So this is what will happen, and we are seeing this more and more. And so now it's really, how do we get around all the stresses that I mentioned a while ago so that we can enjoy at least this hybrid kind of setup that is coming our way. Another thing is, what can we really do moving forward? How do we move forward? And what are the things that, as parents, as people who work, what can we do for moving forward? So here are probably some things. Set realistic goals for the day. Stephen Covey would suggest that for him, every Sunday, he would spend like 30 minutes mapping out his week. What would he do during the week? He already had an idea. What would he do for his family? What would he do for his wife? What he would do for friends? One thing that he could do for that week. If it was two things, then great. If he could do it, sure. Over and above all the other commitments that he had. So set realistic goals for the day. Okay, maybe it doesn't have to be for the week. Maybe for the day. What is going to happen on the Monday if you're doing this on a Sunday? What's going to happen Monday or Tuesday specifically? And be realistic about it. And of course, follow through on it. Next is Allow flexibility also in your schedule. Okay, allow flexibility. Now, I think also sometimes it's too flexible, right? Now that there's a hybrid, sometimes everything is just too flexible. But of course, there are others who have, gotten so used to the status quo right now, the now normal, that they actually do have a set schedule. So, but allow for flexibility for it, because you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes maybe your internet may not be as good on that day, and that happened to me recently in the last webinar, I think, or the last two webinars, that poor Sarah had to take over for my session. But that happens. What do you do, right? Allow for flexibility and be prepared. Experiment with time blocks, meaning try to see where all of your roles fit in. And what I mean by roles, I talk about what are the things that you do in your life that make you function. Okay, so for example, if you are a worker, what do you do? If you're a manager, or as a worker or a manager, what are those things? What time can you allot for that? How much time do you need to do everything that you need to do as a manager or even as an employee? Next, if you are a parent, how much time do you need to be a parent? And experiment with that for yourself. What do you do for yourself as well? And what time blocks do you have for that? For yourself, meaning to read a book, exercise, whatever. And with this blended environment, experiment with that. See what works. See what works in terms of scheduling your priorities in life. And that's why we do it on maybe a weekend, a day that is, a day for relaxing, trying to experiment with those blocks of time in order for us to figure out something that really works. What else? And once you do that, please set your boundaries. Please set your boundaries. You know, uh, in organic intelligence, and even among us in people development, Sarah, myself, and our partner Jen, who's in the background right now, when it's a weekend, it's a weekend. Okay, when it's a weekend, it's a weekend. When we finish work, whether it's at 5 o'clock or at 6 o'clock, we're done. Okay, we're done. And those are boundaries that we have set for ourselves. Why? Because we know we have families. We know that we're with people or have to talk to people outside of the work. And isn't that what we used to do anyway when we were still working in the office? When we're off at 5, that's it. We go home and that's it. No more working. It's time for family. But because we're at home, we've forgotten that. So set boundaries for yourself. Take breaks. If you used to work a 9 to 5, 10 o'clock was the first break, right? And then 12 noon, set an hour for lunch. And then come back at 1, sit down and work. Take a break at 3 o'clock, and then knock off at 5. And then that's it. Experiment with these time blocks so that you can figure out what works for you in this hybrid work setup. Okay? I just mentioned take a break. Yes, you need to take a break. Everybody needs to take a break because, again, I said Zoom fatigue. It's there. It's real. Okay? It's real. And I have to say sorry for Zoom, okay? Or to Zoom. It's not just Zoom. It's just any kind of platform, right? It's just that they're the most popular. But, when that fatigue sets in, take a break, um, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you need to recharge yourself to get into the next meeting. And that's why I said you need to be flexible, because you don't know when you're going to feel that fatigue, that tiredness. So when you don't know, then take a chance, okay? And take a few minutes just to take that break. The next is connect with your workmates, okay? Find time to engage with each other the way that you used to in the office. When we were still going to the office, lunchtime was a great time to engage because we had a pantry, within the building where we all could sit together, share stories, jokes, whatever, and this was a time that we had with each other. But because of this situation and the pandemic and the lockdown, that somehow got cut or disrupted. So what do we do? You can still have online lunches, Why not? Call each other up, say what you're eating, and start sharing stories. Put your camera on so that you can see each other, connect. Doesn't have to be every day, Like I said, now the call is really to have meaningful connections. So it's not necessarily every day, but make each connection count so that it works for you, so that you can still maintain that intimate work relationship that you have with your colleagues. And even at home, connect meaningfully with the people at home. If your kids lock themselves in their office many times, then especially when they're older and they really have their own time, then make dinner time or lunch time a time for you to bond and to talk and to discuss, discuss about anything, questions that they might have. So make each connection very, very meaningful. Be creative about it. So get your teammates on the same page. You may want to do that, but if it's not supported, or get the support of everyone who is in your work, right? Get everyone's support, suggest it, and take the initiative if that's what's needed. But make sure that you find new ways of connecting with everyone, and make sure that everybody is on board. We have in our office, in our company, we have a monthly town hall, okay? A monthly town hall where we discuss updates and next measures in order for us to reach our strategic goals. And then we also call it the town hall, okay? Okay, town hall. Okay, for those of you who understand that, great. If you didn't, hall, hangout lang. Okay, so so we have the town hall, meaning after the town hall, after business, as an organization, we just sit back, have game night, talk about updates and fun things, and we just have a laugh. We just enjoy each other's company. So that happens monthly as an organization. What happens in between with the different business units in our organization, that's entirely up to them as well. They can also have their mini hohols, okay? Their mini hangouts. So have that, all right? Have that. And get your teammates on the same page. Cut yourself some slack, okay? So if it doesn't work out, or if things you feel are not working out, it's okay. All right? It's okay. There is no manual for what to do during a pandemic. There's none. No, nobody is 100% prepared for this. Because the last time that everybody was on lockdown for 3 years, that was during the 1800s, okay, or the early. Sorry, my history is really bad. But when the Spanish flu came out, right, and everybody, the whole world was on lockdown in during that time for 3 years. Okay. Thank you. Somebody just said 1918. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Si Sarah talaga, maaasahan. Okay, so in 1918, this happened and it persisted. All right. For 3 years, people were on edge. Nobody could go out. People had to wear masks, and they were funny looking masks. At least now we get to wear surgical masks and N95 masks, which look nice, right? So cut yourself some slack. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself, because we're all doing our best to adapt. We're all doing our best. All right. Sorry. Biglang napaano tuloy ako. Okay? The secret was out. Okay? I kind of shared the secret too early. That's what I can offer for you now, and we will go to our Q&A. But before I go through our Q&A, I'd like to, of course, now introduce our special guest for today. Okay? Our special guest. And she also has a lot of experience at work and being a mother of two boys. Okay? So let me give her a proper introduction. So Miss Grace De Castro actually is the CEO of V+A Consulting and an international business HR and organizational development consultant for local and multinational companies. So she is a certified empowerment coach for leaders and teams from the Marshall Goldsmith Coaching. an ACE certified coach from WebEx or WBEX, okay, a certified facilitator. Get this, certified facilitator for the Lego Serious Play method. Yes, you heard it right. Lego Serious Play method. She is a Woman Super Achievers awardee. Okay, seventh world during the seventh World Women Leadership Congress 2020 World HRD Congress, and an executive contributor to Brains Magazine. So, beyond all this, her designations, her most important and most favorite, and we know this for a fact because she never stops talking about her boys, okay, is that she is a hands on mother to her two greatest prides and joys, her two boys. Okay, and we know this. She can never get enough talking about how her sons, and she's so proud of them, and she's proud to be a mother. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Grace De Castro. And if you have questions, please put them on the chat in whether YouTube or Facebook, and we'll get to you. Welcome, Grace. And how are you this
Hello,
afternoon?
I am good. Hello, Kuya Robie. Kuya Robie. Hello, Kuya. And hello, everybody who's joining us from all the different platforms that Robbie mentioned. So if you're on Facebook, YouTube, um, and wherever else, meron bang illegal connections to this? Halata yung age.
Wala,
So
wala.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, okay. So, very good. We can start with a few questions. A few questions ba kagad?
Sure.
And okay, let me start maybe with one question. And I guess the most basic would be, what was your work arrangement pre-pandemic, and how has your work changed now that
Sure.
COVID is here? Like what happened?
Sure. Okay. So pre-pandemic, I used to do a lot of work with clients in clients' offices. So laman ng daan, right? So EDSA was my jazz. I used to right before the pandemic, we were expanding internationally. So we had our first part of the year last year na pala yun. Before the lockdown in March, I had traveled with one of my best friends who also happens to be one of the people that I work with. We had
Mhm.
traveled out of the country. So that was where we were meeting our clients where they were. And then the lockdown hit, right? So pretty much overnight, everything sort of transitioned online. At the start of it, so we were the first 3 months, people did not quite know how to do that, right? Because
Mhm.
people were like, no, that's going to go away. It's like the flu. It will be back in about, a quarter, or we'll be back before the holidays. And
Yep.
eventually it started becoming a little bit more obvious that this was not going to go away. So we had to transition. So there was a lot of work around transitioning work to being online. So before, like what you said, before it was I'd come home and then I could shut down, right? So it
Yep.
then became, because I had international clients, I would be asleep, parang BPO. I would be asleep in the morning because my clients were awake at night or early in the morning. So I had to
Mhm.
be awake at 2 or having meetings at 11 p.m. Just that was how it was. So you had to adjust.
Right, right. And how long did it take for you to cope, or how did you even cope, with that?
Wow.
Uh,
I,
Oo, di ba? Kasi learning curve
oh,
din yun.
I'm still coping. Yun ang sagot. I'm still, no, I think, 'di ba? Because the challenge really is, it's ever evolving, and with the way our government has been dealing with this, sometimes it's open. Now we're on another lockdown, right? Or circuit breaker, or
Yep.
whatever. So you really need the adjustment, the ability to adjust on the fly,
Mhm.
has become like a life-saving tool, literally and figuratively.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I've had to, so very quickly, right? Because I was used to having meetings online. And we're trainers. I'm a consultant. I coach people who are not in the country. So I'm used to working online, right? But this took it
Mhm.
to a whole new level. Um,
Yeah.
so the adjustment, I guess it really took a couple of months, if I'm going to be honest.
Right.
There were a lot of frustrations along the way. I still get frustrated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you can't plan. Pwede na ba?
Yeah.
Can you meet na ba? Can you do face to face? Can you do this? Is it safe, etc. So so at least my team and I, and me in particular, I adjust accordingly. I think is the
Yeah.
best term. Yeah,
All right. And we're talking about work, diba? These are
yeah,
ways that you and I and many of us, we've been able to, or we're still coping, like you said, diba? Every now and then. Kaya nga we need to
yeah,
cut ourselves some slack, diba? Let's be
yep,
kind to ourselves as well. But aside from working, diba? You also got to even finish a course on leadership while
yep.
in quarantine. Kasi okay lang trabaho at saka family when we get home. Pero what about your own development, di ba? You were able to
Mm-hmm.
do that. How were you able to balance that? No, being an
Mm,
entrepreneur, mother,
yeah,
and then a student as well, di ba?
yeah. Um, so totohanan, sakripisyo talaga. Parang it sounds so ano, 'di ba? But I sacrificed sleep, which is not something I recommend to everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm honest enough. But that was something that I took on when I think you're talking about the WBEX advanced certification that I took. So that was a
Mhm.
6-month process.
Right.
Um, and I laugh about it now, but it was so several times during the month you had to be online. And this is not one of those that you can just watch on your own time. So part of the course you could watch on your own time. The bigger chunk of the course, which is graded, is you had to be live. So there were
Okay.
practice sessions and you had to be. So my practice sessions were 6 a.m. and
Wow.
at 11 p.m.
Oh,
So
oh, wow.
magkaibang week 'yon. Yeah, magkaibang week 'yon. So minsan natatawa ako parang ay anyari. The 6 a.m. was a real stretch. It's, for me, I'll be
Mhm.
honest, because I also like sort of cuddling with my little boy. The 11 p.m. was a bit more manageable because the kids were asleep.
Mhm.
So the living room and the kitchen was mine, so that was good. Um, how did I actually do it?
Mhm.
Honestly, there was a lot of support. I spoke to my children. I'm very fortunate. I have a 17-year-old and a 7 now, no? And I was very fortunate that they got it, right?
Mhm.
So when mom, like now, you're not going to see anyone coming in. There's no dog, there's no child, walking in because my 7-year-old, I had to tell my 7-year-old, mama's going to be with Tito Robie, with Kuya Robie today, and this is what's gonna happen. He goes, okay, mommy has work. So he's gonna
Yep.
be like, okay, I'm gonna count you down, and I'm just gonna start jumping in a little later. But that was it. It's great. So while I'm here, my 17-year-old is actually hanging out with my 7-year-old. I could hear them. So they're
Mhm.
hanging out. So he's keeping. So that was really important for us. There's a support system. I'm a single mom. For those who may not know, I'm a single mom to two beautiful boys. They have a certain thing that they sort of get into their own world. So that helped me when I was doing my studies. So my I and for I think my that sorry, let me translate that to get help when you can. Right? I mean,
Yes.
kasi minsan tayo feel natin pasa ng daigdig kailangan tayo lang eh. 'Di ba?
Oo nga.
Uh,
Oo.
oh, sorry, but this especially goes to the women, to the mamas
Yep.
who have mother's guilt and all that. Said ask for help. I have a fantastic next door neighbor, whom Sarah would also know, but who's amazing, right? And so, you know, minsan kaliit-liit ang grocery, we'll sort of ask each other, oh, what do you need, right? And that's the sort of community and tribe that you need to be able to survive a pandemic, right? So
Yep.
that worked for me. That worked for me. I have my sons and my tribe who helped
Mhm.
me surprisingly pass. So I passed and I got my certification 6 months late.
Surprising.
Nainiyak ko nung nakuha ko. Oo, iniyak ko talaga yun. Nung nakuha ko siya. Yan.
Well, I remember kinikwento mo nga
Yeah.
sa amin yan na, that it was taking up the 6 months and all that, and
Yeah.
how proud you were when you got it finally, di ba? Parang, well, achievement naman talaga yon, right? Okay,
Oo,
sige.
diba?
So we've been talking about how you've coped, right? And so before
Yeah.
we go into how can others, I'd like to hear your points. But before that, I'd like to welcome back Sarah also. Guys, I know that you've seen Sarah before, and she started off this session. Just to let you know, Sarah is my partner in organic intelligence. She's also with people development, and she started her career in the academe also. Mas nauna pa siyang nasa academe kaysa akin. So her
Wow!
her teaching skills her teaching skills are talagang kakaiba. Okay, then she went corporate. He's an organizational development practitioner, so whenever is there anything OD, we go to her. She's the go-to gal. And not only that, okay, not only is she the go-to gal when it comes to organizational development, teaching methodology, program development, and all that, she's also the go-to gal for recipes in terms of cooking. Okay, so masarap magluto yan si Sarah.
True.
Diba?
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Rob.
So,
Always the yourself.
okay,
But I must
so
say, and
Sarah,
hearing you
welcome back.
guys, thank you. I'm always feeling it's an oversell, but I'm hearing and I was listening to you and Grace, and to your last point. Okay, I think cooking. I can relate to Grace. It is my way to stay sane. It's like creating something out of different things. So that kind of helped me. So hi, Grace. I'm so
Hi,
happy
Sarah.
today. Um, okay, I think I have a question for you also because I was listening to you guys, and it's really how do you manage the shifts, right, when it comes
Yeah,
to work? But I'm curious
Mhm.
because you mentioned you have two boys at home.
yeah,
So, in terms of your family dynamics, and they have their own thing going on that
yes.
also translated to now being at home. They were, going to school at home.
Mm-hmm.
What were the significant shifts that you had to deal with in terms of the way your family worked in your home life?
Wow. Okay. The fact that we were together 24/7, that's tough, huh? I
Yeah.
mean, please don't get me
Yes.
wrong. I love my children, and I will say
Yes.
that with absolutely no uncertainty. I love my children, but sometimes you do need space. And I always joke about this again with my next door neighbor. Um, Sometimes you just need adult conversation. You
Yeah.
need to
Mhm.
see humans that are not your humans. Does that make sense? Um,
Yes.
Yeah.
so
A
I
lot of
love my
sense.
humans, 'di ba? Yeah, I love my humans, but minsan namimiss mo lang 'di ba? So, yeah, thank God for my next door neighbor. Hi, Michelle. Um, ano yan, sanity break ko yan lagi. So what was the biggest shift for us? I think it's because we were all together. And I'll be honest, I'm very fortunate that I live in a place where we can have our own little corners. And I realized that is not the norm for a lot of the folks right in the
Yeah.
country. So I do not I am always very grateful for the fact that my 7-year old has his space outside. He needs, the living room is his. My son at the start of the pandemic, my 17-year old, I decked out his room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's his man cave, so to speak. And then I sort of splurged on my table and my chairs. And so this is where I am now. And I'm fortunate that I have that. So that we know when we get to our corners, oh, private
Yeah.
space yon, di ba? Sacred
Mhm.
space yan, etc. I think we've also learned a lot more to ask for stuff, right? Parang relationship lang yan. Minsan ina-assume mo, dapat gets na nila, di ba? Hindi. I always tell people that, no, do not assume. Please say something. So I actually have told for example, my 17-year-old, we've had discussions because he's obviously the bigger one. I say, Kuya, diba? If you heat your food, sama mo na yung kay mami. Diba? Singit
Mhm.
mo na. May mga ganyan. So he gets it. He's like, okay, I can do that pala, diba? And we never had to do that previously, right?
Right.
Because we sort of had our motions pag uwi before, etc. And now we're just all here and we're all
Yeah.
sort of stuck here. So my sons actually know my schedule, right? And that
Mhm.
was the biggest change. The other big change is because Robbie mentioned it earlier. There's no break, there's no delineation. Your entire life is in one bucket all of a sudden, right? There's no I'm driving home, I can shed corporate grace or I can shed, you know, CEO grace. No, I'm all of that in one bucket in one space. Um,
Yes.
yeah, no, but and like, again, I realize this is not for everyone, but conversations are critical. I always tell clients and their staff and their direct reports, mag-usap kayo. Just because you are home doesn't mean you have no life, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there is this guilt around, kasi nasa bahay, nakakahiya pag hindi sinagot.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Sabi ko,
Nako.
di ba, hindi ba rin, so my answer is, di rin ba kayo nahihiya sa mga anak nyo hindi na kayo nakikita? You're at home,
Correct.
but you're not there, right? So, and I know it's easier said than done. Please do not get me wrong, but this is it's a work in progress for everyone. So for me, most of you guys know this, I try not to work on Fridays.
Mhm.
I
Yep.
have that. I'm very fortunate that I have that option to do that because I own my own company. But with my children, for example, we try, oh, kuya, what's your thing this weekend? So Sundays, for example, after dinner when the little one is asleep, my eldest and I have date night, which we used
Nice.
to do before. So with date night, pili ka ng movie, kuya. Anong nasa Netflix? Nod tayo. So kahit na, di ba, kami yon, may popcorn yon. Bibili ng popcorn si mami. Bibili na, so, and because we couldn't go out, and he's 17, so hindi pa pwede. But we know we sort of are able to do that.
Yeah.
The small one is the same. I have like playtime with him, but I try to carve that out
Yeah.
because otherwise masisiraan ho talaga ako ng bait because everything is all in one. So no one is going to help me but me,
Yeah.
right? So I really will carve it out. So the significant shift for that is really having those, and Robbie, you said it, those buckets, right?
Mhm.
And those carving out that time.
Yeah.
I've had to do that even with my 7-year-old,
Yeah.
right? I've had my 7-year-old. So kinakarve out ko yan. Tsaka yung mga non-essential, tinanggal ko na po sa life ko yung mga non-essential. Now is the perfect time to Marie Kondo your universe, which is to clean out all the stuff that is taking up space and occupying time and dragging
Mhm.
your spirit down, pero wala talagang balik. There's no joy that is being given to you. So
Yeah.
that's a perk of being in the pandemic, right? You
Yeah.
can say no to the people who don't bring you joy.
Yep.
So that's what I've done. So that's the
That
shift in my home life.
And I agree, no. And now, actually, more than ever, because of the lockdown and us being in a that blended environment, parang now to carve out those little times with family and with work, you have to be more purposeful with it, eh, di
Yeah,
ba? You
true.
really have to talagang do it with the intention of following through on it,
Yeah.
because of this blended environment. Okay,
Yep.
all right. So we have some questions also about the future. The future talaga, no? Okay. So I have a question. I guess for you as an HR practitioner yourself.
Yeah.
How do you see the future of work? I mean, how will it
Mm.
be?
Okay.
How will
Um,
that be? Yeah.
it's a mixed bag. I'll be honest. I've heard a lot of organizations and a lot of clients who want everybody to come back,
Mhm.
right? But with the way things are with the Delta variant, with rising cases, etc. So people now have gone back or not have gone back, but are work from home muna until
Right.
we get a handle on these cases. And then
Right.
there is talk about hybrid. I'm sure you guys have seen the news internationally. Everyone come back, right? In the banking sector, everyone come
Mhm.
back or find a new job or whatever. I think if I'm going to be honest, this is also partly a dream of mine. Um, I do see the value of hybrid, right?
Mhm.
Allowing people a lot more flexibility and leeway to work from home, um, not to have to worry about transportation and the traffic, etc. But also giving them the opportunity, like what you said, Rob, be more purposeful and mindful about buckets of time. So maybe there is a monthly town hall,
Yeah.
right? A town hall and a hall because you do need that community, right?
Yeah.
That is the perk of office. You do need that. So I don't me personally, I do miss it. Even with me when I was no longer in corporate, I miss that. I miss humans. I've said it kanina. I miss the human interaction and I miss the energy that brings me. Um, so I would and I always tell clients, give that opportunity to folks, but with that kind of future of work, there is a significant change in us as leaders. And there
Yeah.
is a significant um, mindset shift, right? So a lot of that comes down to clarity of deliverables. A lot of that comes down to trust,
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep.
right? And
Yes.
it's really trust. And people will be like, no, yeah, but I trust them. You know, be, I grew up at the time where the boss was the boss, right? Chu, 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 chu,
Yeah.
anong sabihin ng boss. There's, again, a bit more fluidity now, also with the kind of talents that we have in organizations, in the
Yep.
workplace. So there's a lot more talking that needs to happen, a lot more
Mhm.
aligning that needs to happen, a lot more clarity of vision, right? Na dati, sorry but dati hindi naman masyadong importante. Oh, okay yan, sinesweldohan ako, nakakapasok ako, game tayo, di ba? Now, because you're at home and you have all these things that are trying to get your time and attention, dapat very clear anong expected sa'yo, etc. I've never been a believer of, sige, you clock in and you clock out. I know that's strange. I've never been a believer in all my years of being in HR. I am a big
Mhm.
believer of be very clear with the direction, be very clear with the end state that you expect, right? And get out of the way so that your team members can deliver. My job as a leader, when I left corporate, my job as a leader was to ensure that the environment in which they operate was a supportive, happy, conducive environment. That was my
Right.
job.
Yeah.
Diba? Kasi hindi ko na ginagawa yung nitty-gritty, but that was my job. So, if that doesn't change when we're in an online setting, right?
Right.
How I
Mhm.
deliver that, how that looks like changes, but providing an environment that is safe, conducive, happy, joyful, that still remains, right? So those are conversations people need to have. So I do see a hybrid. Marami lang kailangan gawin in terms of mindset, right? So to
Agree.
see this really work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There.
agree. Yeah, I think it's now also we're realizing that alam mo yung before, because we were going to the office, there was such a clear line between your work life,
Yes.
and sometimes people don't really know what was really going on with your home life. It was not like something that people had to be concerned about, but
Yeah.
somehow because of the pandemic, you had, as leaders, and relating to that, as leaders, you had to be concerned about what was
Yep.
going on in their home life
Yes.
because it
Mhm.
was really running into the work life as well. So
Oh yeah.
it's understanding that, diba? That those lines have been, I wouldn't even say blurred, they have been decimated completely.
Oo,
Wala na,
wala, 'di ba? Yeah,
wala na,
wala na talaga.
True.
wala
Oo.
na.
That's so
And
true.
therefore, it was really now to to Grace's point, and I agree that so much of it has to do with mindset
Yeah.
and trust. Kasi
Yeah.
now it's really understanding that the old the old way of thinking that you constantly have to look over their shoulder or allow them to clock in. And now you recognize that they have lives. And people, it is a very real thing. They have lives,
Yeah.
they have children, they have family, and that has to be something that plays into like making decisions and understanding how to best support the team,
Yes.
because at the end of it, if you support them and they are in that happy, joyous, good state, then they will also do good work for their
Absolutely.
company.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, mahaba-haba pa siya, I think. Pero parang
Yeah.
nasasanay ka lang, you're getting used to finally being in lockdown, and now you have to do another shift, and
A hybrid, yeah.
yeah, it is very demanding. Okay, so many things we are learning from Grace,
Mhm.
and really we are understanding better. And you're right, it's the conversations that help.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think when people talk about it, that's when we understand where people are coming from, what they're going
Yes.
through. That
Oo.
may not be something that we have, we considered before. Kasi,
Yeah.
kailangan dito naman siya sa office, ganyan. So,
Mm.
we have a question, okay? And I want to get to this before we run out of time. We have a question from
Sure.
somebody who is tuned in to us today. So the question is from Dana, okay? Who is always tuned into our webinars. Thank you, Dana. Okay,
Thank
this is
you.
our question. Also, your play and your Lego play self and
Sure.
expertise come into play here. Okay, the question is this: my nieces have an almost unhealthy relationship with their tablets.
Yep.
Okay, how do
Mhm.
we minimize their screen time when digital is a necessity now? Okay,
Sure.
Mhm.
they and I say they, meaning her nieces, say books and real toys are boring compared to YouTube. Sad.
Sure. That is, hey, hi, welcome to the welcome to the twilight zone, so to speak. Yeah, no, and I get it. I absolutely get it. And I have a love hate relationship with
Mhm.
gadgets. I have a 17-year-old, so I absolutely feel you, right? And I have
Yep.
a 7-year-old. My 7-year-old is not as addicted to his gadgets as my 17-year-old is, because that's where everybody is, right? Because they can't see their friends, right? And so I get that, but and this is probably a little old school. I've had conversations, numerous conversations with my 17-year-old, which I'll share with you, where I've said, you know, I actually explained why I was worried about the use of the gadgets. I actually said that because I mean, look, we were teenagers once. Dati ang uso landline. At mahabat ang age ko, landline tsaka, 'di ba, yung teleponong cordless phone, 'di ba, na tinatago mo sa nanay mo para para makipag-usap, makipag-telebabad. I get that because I used to do that. In my 17-year-old mobile phone eh. So what do I tell him? Several things that I've actually has worked in my favor. The Wi-Fi in my house has a very simple connection where I can shut off all their gadgets except
Mhm.
mine. so so I
Wow.
use that. Yeah, I use that. So my eldest son knows that this is the time this shuts off. Weekends, I let them be. I get when they say it's boring, diba, the books, etc. I think again, this is where conversations need to happen. The whole you need to follow me because conversation does not work.
Mm.
I
No.
don't know how old Diana. Hi, I don't know how old your nieces are. I'll assume they're teenagers. Let me just assume they're teenagers. That never works with my child, with my 17-year-old. I don't think that ever worked with me when I was a teenager. Just
Mhm.
because I said it, right? And it just breeds contempt for stuff. Like they try to see how far they can take it. I actually asked my son why he so loves being online. And he actually explained it to me. My friends are there late. This is what happens. Do, etc. So I go, what will work? Ginamit ang pagiging coach. What can work? How do you see this working? What will work for you? Right? And where can we meet? Right? Because my worry, and I told him, my worry is not so much you're an addict, which you are. I said, but you're addicted to it. But I said, my worry is really health wise. That's not a joke. I told them, I am worried health wise, and I am terrified as a mother, right, of what this is doing to you. And I've shown him all the videos of being online is like crack cocaine. I've shown him all that, right? Lahat yan, ginawa na. Di talaga nagwo-work pag 17 eh, di ba? They think they're invincible pag teenager.
Yeah.
So sinabi ko talaga, and I said it, I go, I love you and I'm worried. That doesn't go away as you get older. It actually goes stronger because I
Mhm.
don't have as much say over you because you're old. Naiiyak ako. Because you're older. Naiiyak talaga ako. Shoo! Okay. So I said, so I told him that. We just had this conversation a few days ago again. And I told him, so I also give, there's leeway, right? But he also knows, dude, you can't do this till 2.
Yeah.
Di
Mm.
naman yun, di ba? Hihimatayin talaga ako na hindi ako makatulog eh kasi nag-worry ako eh. So siya, okay, anong oras? So meron siyang, can I cut off at 11? Okay. Pwede ba pag weekend ganito? Okay.
Mm.
Right? So ang sa akin, ikaw nagsabi niyan. Anong mangyayari pag hindi nangyari? Right? So, there are certain things that I still sort of take away. He's 17. There's not much I can take away, right? You take away the
Yeah.
phone, it's like their life just ended. You
Yeah.
take away their laptop, di ba? So I realize it's conversations. It sounds so corporate, but it's really conversations. And it's not conversations so that what I want is what's followed. It's really understanding why it was so important. What's so important? What's there for my children that I'm not seeing? Right? So I told him, oh, sige, so what? So, yeah, so that's why we have Sunday date nights. Ako
Mhm.
kasama. Walang gadget yon. Mami yon. Right?
Yeah.
So that's 2.5 hours of gadget-free entertainment because it's just with mom. Right? So I will ply him with food. We will order your favorite. May mga ganyan ako, parang may pang-engganyo, di ba? That's, I think, is what I do. It is a necessity. Anything outside of school stuff we talk about. I have spoken to school. You'll be surprised. I have had opportunities to speak to their school to actually say, I am not okay. XYZ sort of usage. The school is very
Mm.
understanding of that. My eldest did not have Facebook or Instagram until he was 16. I didn't put him on there. He knew why. So we had that discussion. So it's understanding why it's so important to them. And please, and I, sorry, Diana, I'm looking at you. I get the worry. I do. But we need to also listen to them why it's so important, right? And you, both of you, both your nieces and you or their parents, have to come to an agreement of what works, right?
Yeah.
For us, I'm listening to you. That's very important to the kids now. I am listening to you. I want to understand you. Where, where can I come in, be less parenty, right? But be less dictatorial pala, not parenty, less dictatorial, and really more, how do we, di ba? Right? How do we get this to a good place for both of us?
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, haba. Yan.
It's
No,
and
that's
I
super
agree. I
beneficial.
mean, and I agree. It's something that we also, I mean, in our home, no? Like, lalo na ngayon, my kids are adults basically. My
Yeah,
my youngest can vote. He can vote already. Um, how do you work around it, because they
yeah,
also need their gadgets for school, their college, which gives them work that sometimes they have all-nighters, and I
yes,
get that. College, that happened to us in college before,
yeah,
but now it's kind of more frequent, because nga the blended environment. So we do have also scheduled times together. Like every
yeah,
Saturday is a Saturday to sit down together, order what they want, like whether it's a pizza or burger, but we all sit together and watch something that we all enjoy. So before it was a monthly thing. Pre-COVID, it was a monthly thing. We started with pizza night every month. But now that we're together, 24/7, pwede na siyang weekly, di ba?
uh-uh.
And pwede na siya, those are times.
Yeah,
Dinner times are also sacred to us, no gadgets, so
yeah,
that we can discuss, we can talk.
yeah.
Lunches are a little bit more tricky because sometimes they have online
School,
classes at the
yeah,
time, yeah. So, but dinner definitely is a time for us to be together. If you have prayer time, have that as well.
yeah,
That's something that we do, and they know this. Once there's a routine, they know this,
yeah,
and I understand that. Listen also to what the kids are saying, whether they're 7 or 9. They have their reasons, and we just have to find a way, the in between, the
yeah.
win-win, for everyone. Yeah. All right. Do we have another question that we will
Yeah.
flash from
Yes,
one
we
of
have
our viewers?
another
Yes, this is
Wow.
yeah.
from Paula. So,
Paula,
Paula, as a
please,
woman,
Sil.
Silva,
As a,
as a
okay.
woman and a mom, how do you manage your personal ambitions and your responsibilities to your loved ones?
Hmm.
How do you deal with the trade-offs and keep being kind to yourself?
Wow. Okay. Paula, hi. Thanks for your question. Uy, wow. Parang pinag-usapan lang namin to. I'm not gonna lie, I'm very ambitious. And I make no apologies for that, right? I like owning my spaces, and it took me a long time to get here. I'm in my 40s, so it took me a while. I hope it doesn't take you that long. But it took me a while to to own my spaces. My responsibilities to your loved one, to my loved ones, I don't see that it's a, what's the term, a mutually exclusive thing. Like my personal ambitions and my makes me less responsible, I guess, to my loved ones. Actually, my ambition in terms of growing my business internationally, which was what I was doing, um, really is for my loved ones, right? Really is for it's for my sons. My sons understand it. Again, I think I'm very fortunate that I speak to my eldest. My little one sort of shares in that, will listen into the conversation because he likes it. But my 17-year-old absolutely understands it and gets what I want to do with it. He's from the very beginning when I started my company. he knew where I wanted to take it and what I want to do. Um, I am also very fortunate that I have a partner, although I'm in an LDR. Naks. But but the truth is, I am very fortunate that he is absolutely like my biggest champion. Right? He is the biggest supporter of my own dreams and my personal ambitions, and he allows me to be, um, to fully realize that. Right? He's like the big, yeah, you can do it. How do you deal with the trade-offs and keep being kind to yourself? Okay. I think because it was very clear to me what what was truly important. Robbie and Sarah know this. Everything that I do is for my sons. Again, that might not be so popular for everybody, but what I do is for my sons. And anything that does not bring me closer to being a good parent or to providing for my children, I try not to do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes
There.
so much.
Yeah, so the trade-offs, hindi ko kasi maisip eh. When you're very clear, I guess, with what is most important to you, then you know what sort of trade-offs you're willing to get into.
Yeah.
Right? I'll give you a perfect example. I had an opportunity to do I was recently, just to share, I was recently asked to join an organization. I have not been in corporate for many, many years. There was an opportunity to join an organization outside of the Philippines. Um, Exciting, interesting. It was the first sort of offer that I had had in 5 years, which I thought, right? And I was like, because it was that interesting. I sat down my 17-year-old, babe, this is what's happening. My non-negotiable was very clear. I said I was not going to leave the country. If they could wait for a year until my eldest finished high school, then we're great. Otherwise, lovely to meet you, but that's it. Unfortunately, the role could not wait.
Mm-hmm.
I said, lovely to meet you. Thank you. Perhaps we shall meet again down the road, but there is no way I am leaving my child on his last year of high school. It's
Yep.
just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think the reason it was easier for me to do that, it was easy for me to do that because I was very clear what my end state is. I love being CEO. I love owning my own firm. I love working with the clients that I do. I love being a mother most.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Does that make
Yep.
sense? So
Yes.
and yeah, and yeah, and so there are days I will tell my son, dude, I'm CEO today, ah. Wala tayong ano. Yeah, mom. Cool. So my 17-year-old will be like, yeah, rock on. Kaya mo yan, right? And so because he is involved, because my son is involved, because my loved ones, those who matter to me know what I want to do. So I have an absolutely fantastic tribe or community, that is absolutely supportive. So
Mhm.
managing the personal, right, ambitions with the responsibilities does not feel like I have to throw away one for the other,
Yeah. Clear.
right? Yeah.
Very clear. And yeah,
So,
actually, one takeaway that I had from Grace for several is really that when you involve your family and your loved ones in your decision making, it feels less of a trade-off because
yeah.
Mhm.
there's also that kind of perspective and understanding in terms of where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And my second takeaway is that personally it would be good to be clear about what your non-negotiables are,
Yes.
because when
Yes.
your non-negotiables are absolutely clear, you will know that even the perspective may shift a little bit,
Yeah.
and you may not think of it as a trade-off, but
Yes.
rather just like steps to reaching your goals.
Yeah.
So while there may be, diba, hindi siya talaga I'm giving up one for the other. You're doing this and taking everybody with you. Okay, so
Yes.
it
Mhm. Yep.
it is not so much of a trade-off, but I think that comes from being absolutely clear about what you are willing to negotiate about and what
Yes.
spaces in your life are absolutely untouchable.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. May I just add, sorry, and just a not a warning, I guess, but a nice reminder. Please make sure that the tribe that are around you are people who really genuinely love you. Sorry. Sorry. And I really need to say that because sometimes the tribe that you think is around you is actually quite selfish. Sorry, right? And it's really about them, and because you're such a crutch or because they've been so dependent on you, no, you stay here, etc. Right? Again, I was, because I managed to Marie Kondo my universe before this pandemic. I'm very fortunate that the people around me, my loved ones, my partner, my children, my best friends, um, are the ones who will tell me straight, right? Think this is great. We'll miss you. Can you get a bigger house if you leave so we can visit you? Mga ganong levels. So may mga ganyan. But yung talagang, okay, malungkot kami, hindi ako masaya na, alis ka, o may option na yung, do you know that there's an honesty to it? But you also know they are watching out for you,
Yeah.
right? It is not about, how is this going to be nice for me? Hindi ganun eh. They are watching out for you. And that's what a tribe does, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, there.
I think
Just
yeah,
maybe
well,
one other point I can see there is that when you involve your family before, maybe pre-pandemic, that wasn't something that we would think about, but now I feel it's an imperative
Yeah.
because you are together all the time. It's an imperative now to really bring in everybody and discuss these things,
Yeah.
so that you can get a handle on what's coming, or what you're doing, or what's expectations.
Yeah.
Clarity, to have that clarity. Yeah.
Yep.
I think we want to share a comment from one of our viewers from
oh,
Buena.
Oh, thank you, Buena Fe. Di pa ako
yeah.
Ah,
mapag-salute all the
hindi pa ako mommy, pero I salute all the mommies out there working and taking care of their children.
Oh, I
Paano
Absolutely.
can.
naman kami
Yeah.
daddies? Ganun.
Sige
Yay
na.
then, daddies. Sige
Absolutely.
na, Rob.
No, but really, and speaking as the person here who has no children, I have the utmost respect for parents who are doing it and doing it well. Because
Yeah.
I think it's so hard. I just have to fend for myself and sometimes deal with, things that concern family. But that is different from being 24/7, having to be responsible for my own work life and then also being responsible for, raising great adults. Okay, so
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. I echo this sentiment. It is not an
Thank you.
easy job, and if as our examples here of dad and mom are who are doing a great job of bringing up their kids, I think it is something very noteworthy. Yes, so
Thank you.
agree kami dyan. Okay, we have
Salamat.
I think we have a last question.
Last
Okay,
Okay.
question. Yeah.
we have segued into
For
as usual.
younger kids.
Yes. So this is from Sheila Mangila. For younger
Oh,
kids, okay? How do you give them a glimpse of the real world or the outdoor world when they are cooped up at home? Are there
yes.
in-home activities that can simulate this, the experience
Mm-hmm.
of being?
Sure. I'll actually share what I do with my 7-year-old. You just can't see it now because I'm not in that area, but I have like a jungle happening in my house. There's a corner of my living space, of my living room, that looks like a jungle. And I didn't realize. So it started off as like a small fortune plant that now looks like. So I let it be because it's fortune naman. So feeling ko lumalago yung fortune. So we let it. So it's literally on the walls already. Like the branches are reaching the walls. My 7-year-old is the one who sort of puts water. He's the one
Mm,
who talks. I said, so he's named all the plants in the house. Has this one. So fortune plant is Faye. So has Faye been watered today? As this one has Michelle, named after my next door neighbor, Tita Michelle, who gave me a plant as well. Has Tita Michelle been watered today? So he sort of, and the thing is, I live in a condo. We don't have a balcony. He looks at the outside. But that's the only green, I guess, that he can see. So he sees that. That's one. The other thing how do I do the parang glimpse of the real world? He there are days where I actually leave my door open and he is hanging out in the room behind me while I'm working. So he actually sits and he does stuff with me. Type this, answer this, reply. So and when I exercise, so when I do yoga, for example, with my 17-year-old, I'll bring the 7-year-old with us. right? So that's real world. Like I would have done that outside, right? And I would have attended a class, but
Mm-hmm.
because we can't, so I will bring it in. I try as much as possible to expose it to my 7 year old. I'll give another funny thing. I'm taking a language class. I'm doing it over Duolingo, right?
Yeah.
My 7 year old loves it for whatever reason. He picks it up faster than me, right? So
Yeah.
real world, yeah. And so he sits on my lap. He actually studies. He'll study. I'm studying that. So he'll study, and he'll say it. And goes, "Mommy." Right? So it's real world. He realizes, oh, this is like part of mommy's learning. Mommy is working. When mommy is working, he's behind, but he's quiet. So he'll put down he won't have volume, for example, for his games, right? But he knows, he understands this is what mommy's doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you stay outside, right? But this is real life. He is part of my real life. You are, and I always tell my clients, I am inviting you into my household. I am
Mm-hmm.
inviting you to my home. Part of my home is my children,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
sometimes you'll see him, and so that's what I like to do. I've done some part of plant. So plantito level A yung 7 year old ko.
Nice.
Di ba? So meron siyang plantito. I bought these really inexpensive, they sort of they're in the shape of a bird. They water the plants, but you have to fill
Oh,
in the bird route, and so the water comes down. And so they're like each plant. So I have about 8 of those in all my plants.
wow.
My son's job is he puts water in he replenishes the birds. Right? So there's a little bit, and it's fun. It's him. It's something he can do at 7. He loves it, right? He understands it. When I make my breakfast, my smoothie for myself and my 17-year-old, he brings out all the ingredients. My 7-year-old does it. Mommy smoothie, he knows where to get stuff. He'll wash this. So I involve them in the real day-to-day life, not necessarily outdoorsy, right?
Yep.
But kung ano yung pwedeng gawin, what I would have done outside, right, that he wouldn't have been a part of, I try and see if I can include him where it is most applicable, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
There.
Very
And
useful.
and
Yeah. Go, Rob.
I echo that. In our home, it's something that my daughter also picked up. She's a plantita also now. She picked up that. I think chores. Chores.
Mm,
Yeah.
Just to make
Yes.
it fun. If you make
mm-hmm,
chores fun, then that's a semblance of the real world, because when they go out
yeah,
and are independent, they'll have to do chores as well, diba? So
Yep.
yeah,
ako, I found joy in baking bread. Okay, and guess what? I've been able to transfer that to my eldest daughter. So now she's the
mm-hmm,
one who's also baking bread with me. And so I mean, it's something that we have together that
yeah,
ngayon naka-schedule na yun kung kailan kami
mm-hmm,
gagawa ng either
Nice.
pandesal or loaf bread. So things like that, and
yeah,
it's something that brings the family together as well.
mm-hmm,
So they do those chores, but they don't see it as a chore. They
yeah,
know
Yep.
that it's part already of their lives, and I think that's something that's real
yeah,
world. That if they were stuck in university, or my eldest, if she got a job pre-pandemic, I don't think they'd be doing that.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, one last thing. Sorry, I
Yes.
think with my
That's right.
7-year-old also, because I think Sheila was asking for the younger ones. For my 7-year-old, he actually dresses up for the day, which is what I learned as mommy. Because it's so convenient to be like, I'm gonna be in my jammies the whole day, and I'm just gonna throw on like an earring and
Yeah.
diba, put on kilay, and we're good to go. No, my 17-year-old puts on a hoodie, and like he's good to go. My 7-year-old will change. Like
Nice.
jeans and a shirt, nahihiya ako. So jeans and a shirt, 'di ba? Kulang na lang mag-shoes 'yan. So ako yung natuto. I'm like, so he actually likes it. He'll pick out his clothes, he'll do the stuff. It's really like he was going to school or he was
Yeah.
starting his day. And you realize, what, I can learn from that and I can pick up on that. So he does that. He changes.
Right.
He'll do his breakfast and he'll be like, nope, time to change. Pick out his clothes. Minsan talaga naka-button down 'yan. 'Di ba? Naka-button
Nice.
down,
Oh,
talaga I swear, when he was finishing school, his classmates are all like in Pantulog and Sando. My son was like, okay, artistahin. I'm like, oh, dude, what up? And you realize, but that puts him in a right frame of mind. And that was more because he couldn't go outdoors, he couldn't go outside. So, but the things he used to do to prepare to go outside was still
Yeah.
something very important to him. So I let him
Right.
do
Correct.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes so
Yeah.
much sense. A semblance of the same kind of routine is actually
Yes.
going to help them a lot. Ako
Yeah.
yung take ko dito is I
Yep.
think when we say the real world, and we also embrace that this is
This
very real.
is, yeah.
This
Yep.
is real. Okay,
This
so
is real.
maybe it's really making peace with letting go of certain things that we had accessible to us before, and
Mm-hmm.
really driving home the point that while this may be, our life, it is no less real than what
Yeah.
we had when we were able to go outside. And it's just finding spaces, right? Finding
Yeah.
things to do together, activities to share. I can super relate. I don't have a kid, but I have a nephew. And even pre-pandemic, this was something that I don't know. Maybe Sheila can also, because I remember my nephew was around this age when my brother started to do this with him. Okay, so what he did was he was part of the budget. Okay, so because we were trying to develop math skills, ganyan. So he was part of the budget. So I'll give you an allowance. You decide how you're going to spend it. So now, I mean, I know that they're not allowed to go out, but they can have like this is what's allotted for you. How do you want to use that? And
Yes.
that's a valuable life skill, right? They
Yeah.
become accountable for their choices.
Yeah.
They get to portion how. So yun, nakakatawa lang of course because now it's like you owe me money. How can I owe you money? You're my child, right? Do anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, because
I get
there's
that.
a change from what you gave me. So they're very disciplined in terms.
Yes.
And now my nephew is 19, so almost
Yeah.
20. So he's carried that through. So that's another skill that you can teach them. Real practical,
Yeah.
lifelong skills
Mhm.
that will serve them well when they grow up. And even chores. I think there's a lot of merit to that. Okay, so I think we are at the end of this. Grace, we've taken
Yes.
so much of your time. We are
That's
very,
okay.
very grateful. Kailangan pa mag-webinar para makapag-catch up.
Okay.
Oo nga.
Yeah, because we do work with Grace and we are always grateful and happy to spend time with her. So this is just
Likewise.
just an excuse for us to do that. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I'm sure for a lot of parents who are out there, it is very beneficial to get the ideas and understand. More importantly, that they are not alone. Okay,
Yeah.
that it is
Yes.
not easy for parents. Sometimes I think that's the thing that's difficult. We're all isolated and we feel sometimes that that my experience is only mine. And I think as I'm listening to you guys, it is not true. The experience is universal for parents. Okay, and
Yep.
the challenges cut across the board. It is something that is shared by like moms and dads likewise. So thank you so much, Grace, for sharing your time with
Thank
us today.
you. Thank you for having me. Marami pong salamat, and all my friends who tuned in. Nax. Thanks, friends. So, see,
We
that's
are
what happens
very
when you have a
grateful.
tribe. Super supportive. Thank
We
you.
are
Thank you.
Yes.
very
Thank you.
grateful. Thank you, Tribe of Grace, for tuning in. Special shout out to you guys. Okay,
Special
so
shout out.
before we close, Rob, thank you also. I think what we want is just to invite people to have those conversations with your loved
Mhm.
ones, with your coworkers, with your leaders. Start the conversations and take something away from this and maybe apply it to your own challenges. And I hope you were able to give you that today. Okay, so thank you once again. We are Organic Intelligence in behalf of Grace, who generously shared their time and knowledge and wisdom with us today. And also Robbie. I'm Sarah. We are Organic Intelligence. Thank you for joining us today. You can follow us at our there. You can email us at learn@organicintelligence.com.ph as well as our social media account. So if you want a copy of this webinar, we will be posting this as well. So we'll see you next month for another session of learning and sharing. In the meantime, stay safe, everybody, and be well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.